Hello there, everyone, and welcome back to the GSL-English podcast. My name is Gideon, and this is a podcast for all learners of English to practice and improve in a relaxed and natural way. And in today's episode, we are going to be talking about success. Are you successful? Am I successful? Really, what is success? We're going to think about that kind of fundamental question and go back to basics. Go back to the bare definition of what success is. Because I think sometimes, particularly in the world that we live in now with social media and the way lives are portrayed, I think the idea of what makes us successful can get lost in all of that. So that's the theme of today. We've got a really interesting article that we're going to read. So as always, throughout this episode, I've got loads of vocabulary. We're going to look at tons of different expressions. Well, not tons, because that would take years. We're going to look at a fair few expressions and idioms, all based around success. Of course, you'll have a chance to practice your speaking skills if you'd like to read along with me. But if not, you've just got a chance to practice listening to real and authentic English. And that's the purpose of this podcast. So there you go. If you're a returning viewer or a listener, you already know the deal. You know what to expect. But if you are new here, and we do have quite a few new followers and subscribers on Spotify and YouTube. If you can, I would love you to introduce yourself in the comments. We got a great comment section going. You guys always leave such lovely comments and actually some really interesting thoughts and perspectives on the topics that we talk about that very often my tiny little mind hadn't even comprehended. So yeah, if you are new here, I would love it if you can just introduce yourself and let me know where you're from, what you do, whatever. Yeah. Whatever information you'd like to share, your favourite cake, how you make a cup of tea. Is it milk first? Is it tea bag first? The ongoing debate that shouldn't really be debated because there's only one right answer. But yeah, please feel free to say hello in the comments. And I hope you've had a good week. Oops, just kicked the camera there if you're watching. I do apologise. Speaking of cameras, what do you think of this camera angle? Trying something a little bit different. I'm not going to lie, it's taken me way too long to set up with my new camera, but we're going for a more zoomed out approach. Been watching a few podcasts recently, just trying to get some pointers on how to make this one a little bit more professional. And I realised maybe the camera was always a tad too zoomed in. So we've zoomed out a little bit. You're not just staring too close to my ugly mug. So if you do like this angle, if you've got no preference, or you do think it's just a little bit better or a little bit worse, let me know what you think. I am loving the new camera, by the way, or the new phone, the iPhone 17. Really like it. I don't know if that's just because I was way behind on my other iPhones. I think the one I had before was the iPhone 10 or 11. So this just seems like a massive upgrade. But I'm happy with my purchase. I'm happy that I did it. I don't regret it. The weather here in England in January has been atrocious. Atrocious meaning terrible, awful, hideous, and I hate it. It's been raining far too much. I think historically speaking, I was talking to a friend who loves the weather, really interested in weather and weather patterns. And generally speaking in England, January is quite a dry month, funny enough, although it's kind of the middle of winter. It's supposed to be quite a dry month, but this has been soaking. I think every day throughout January, we've had a little bit of rain. I know we're into February now, but I haven't had a chance to moan and complain about January, and I'm a British man, and I need to moan about the weather. I've just got to get it out of my system. So it's going to happen. Sort it out. England, United Kingdom, please just make the weather a little bit better. I say that actually. Today's a lovely day. Today's really nice. The sun's out. Got that kind of nice crisp chill in the air. Had a little walk this morning in the sun with my wife. It was very nice. Wrapped up. Came home, had a coffee. Actually, yeah. So today I'm not complaining, but I'm catching up on the complaining that I should have done throughout January for the weather. It's my prerogative. I like to complain about the weather. I think we all love a good moan now and then. There's nothing wrong with that, is there? A little bit of a moan. Success. So before we get into this topic, I just wanted to share with you some expressions that I think are very commonly used when talking about success, particularly on a career kind of level, or if you're trying to achieve something in your career, your job, or whatever you're doing. Here's just some idioms and expressions just to get the ball rolling on this topic. To climb the ladder. You ever heard that expression before, that idiom, to climb the ladder? If you're climbing the ladder, particularly in your career or work, basically you can view it like a ladder with each run is a step up in your career. So if you're climbing that ladder, you're trying to get to the top step, which is the top position. So you are advancing in your career. So now, maybe you want to climb the ladder in sales or the company that you're working in, or talking about someone else, you could say she's determined to climb the ladder as quickly as possible. She wants to get to the top as quickly as possible. And it suggests steady progress upwards, step by step. And it's interesting with that. When I think about climbing the ladder, I think we can kind of learn something from that, because of course you can't really climb a ladder whilst skipping steps. You might be able to. It's going to make things quite difficult, isn't it? So I think there's kind of a bit of a lesson in there for us when trying to succeed or trying to advance in a certain area. Don't skip a step. Just run through them all, even if they're not always easy. Yeah. I don't know. I like that expression, to climb the ladder. Once you've climbed the ladder, you might reach the top. If you reach the top of something, you become very successful in your field. Only a few athletes ever reach the top of their profession. Simple but powerful. It implies that there is a peak and not everyone's got there yet. Someone might say that they've made it, or you want to make it in a certain sphere to achieve progress, especially after difficulty. As an example, after years of rejection, he finally made it as a novelist. After years of the podcast, Gideon finally made it as a podcaster. One day I'll be saying that. Yeah, we never know. Bit of an emotional kind of idea to this. Often carries a sense of struggle and perseverance. What do you want to make it in? The last one, to rest on your laurels. Laurels. Funny, laurel is one of my favourite trees or bushes here in England. Look it up. To rest on your laurels means to stop working hard because you're satisfied with past success. This might be your goal. I'm going to talk about this in a moment, defining what is success. But to rest on your laurels generally has a bit of a warning or a negative connotation. After winning the award, he didn't rest on his laurels. He kept on improving. He wasn't relying on his past success of winning the award. So, success isn't permanent. We have to keep working towards it. Just a few little expressions there, just to get that success train of thought going. To climb the ladder, to reach the top, to make it, and to rest on your laurels. So, would you say you are successful? Would I say I'm successful? Well, don't answer that yet. I want you to answer it after we've been through this really interesting article. But just to set the scene, I think you can only explain success to a certain degree, meaning that you can't fully explain what success is because it is such an individual, subjective thing. When something is subjective, it's in the eye of the beholder. You might say that a piece of art is beautiful. I might say it's not. It's subjective. No one's right, no one's wrong. And I think that applies correct me if I'm wrong, I think that applies to the definition of success. No one can really tell us if we are successful or not. It's subjective. But I think this article explains it really well. So we're going to go through it now. I'm going to take it paragraph by paragraph. As always, we're going to break it down, kind of really just take whatever we can from it when it comes to thoughts, feelings, emotions, but also, of course, the English language. And as we go through, share whatever thoughts or comments you want. You're not limited to one comment. Feel free, share as many as you want. One, because I want to hear your opinion, but two, because it really does help me out. And speaking of helping me out, if you can give me a subscribe, if you're watching on YouTube, a follow, if you're listening or watching on Spotify, and a like, it really does help me to keep on creating episodes, because the algorithm of both likes me to have followers and subscribers. So go on, do it. If you're a Star Wars fan, that reminded me a little bit of Palpatine. Do it. If you're not a Star Wars fan, that meant nothing to you, but please stay. I won't do that again. I promise. Right, let's get into it. If you want to follow along with me, if you want to read along with me, great way of practicing your English speaking skills. There we go. Struggle with that one. Here we go. Success explained. When people hear the word success, they often imagine wealth, status, recognition, or influence. It may mean a prestigious job, financial security, public praise, or visible achievements. From an early age, many are taught, directly or indirectly, that success is something external. It is measurable, comparable, displayed. So here, kind of jump straight into what success might mean. So, when we kind of first hear that word success, we often think about wealth. Wealth meaning how much money you've got in the bank. Status, your social status. How do people view you? How do people think you're doing in life? Recognition. Success is being recognized for what you've achieved and what you've done. And influence. Success is based on how much you can influence people. Let's be completely frank here. Let's be completely honest. There's an element of truth to that, isn't there? There is, you can't deny that with wealth, status, recognition, and influence, there's obviously some success there. I don't think we can deny that, and I don't think we're trying to deny that. But it's, do those things themselves, is that success as a whole? It goes on to say it may mean a prestigious job. The prestigious job is a good job, a recognised job, one that people will respect. Financial security, meaning that you've got enough money to feel secure. You're not got to worry about where the next bills are going to be paid from. Public praise, meaning people look up to you. Visible achievements, what can people see? Your car, your watch, your house. From an early age, many are taught, directly or indirectly, that's an interesting thought. From a young age, could be directly taught or told at schools or by family that this is what success is, or indirectly, which is particularly true now, isn't it, through social media and the way entertainment is pushed out, that success is something external. It's measurable, meaning that it can be measured. It's comparable, meaning that it can compare to others, and it's displayed. So it kind of presents the idea here that to many, when we think of that idea of success, very often really we think of what we can see. But it goes on to say, yet despite unprecedented levels of material comfort in many parts of the world, rates of anxiety, burnout and dissatisfaction continue to rise. This raises an important question. If society's model of success is working, why are so many people exhausted by the pursuit of it? Interesting question. So, yet despite unprecedented, meaning what we haven't seen this before, levels of material comfort in many parts of the world, anxiety, burnout, if you burn out you can't do it anymore, and dissatisfaction, meaning that you are not satisfied, it all continues to rise. So kind of a comparison there, isn't it? Despite these larger levels of comfort in certain parts of the world, this model of success, is it really working? Because people are still dealing with anxiety, burnout and dissatisfaction to a degree that we've not seen before. It's unprecedented. So if that is success, or what we say is success, is that true? Because so many people are exhausted by the pursuit of it. Research in psychology suggests that the problem may lie not in ambition itself, but in how success is defined. Studies in self-determination theory, developed by psychologists Edward Deci and Richard Ryan, distinguish between extrinsic goals, such as wealth, fame and image, and intrinsic goals, such as personal growth, relationships and contribution. Their research has repeatedly found that individuals who prioritise extrinsic goals tend to report lower levels of well-being, even when they achieve these goals. In contrast, those who focus on intrinsic values are more likely to experience lasting satisfaction. So we're looking into this study here that really promotes the idea that the problem isn't in ambition. The problem isn't in wanting these things or being ambitious to have financial security or the things we want. But the issue is in what we define as success. So you've got this self-determination theory, which really distinguishes or clearly highlights between extrinsic goals, wealth, fame is an image, it's external, what can people see, and intrinsic, what's inside, personal growth, relationships, contributions to the world and society. Now it's interesting, of course, one of those everybody sees. They see the wealth, they see the nice car, they see the fancy Rolex, they see all of that. And the other, not unless you talk about it, no one else sees. But it's interesting. This study found that individuals who prioritise, so their priority lies in it, or is their main focus, in extrinsic goals, are reporting lower levels of well-being. But on the outside, others would look at them and think, oh, they must be so happy, they're so successful, they're doing so well. But this study shows that maybe that isn't the case. Even when they achieve those goals, the fancy car, the lovely house, the nice watch. In contrast, those who focus on intrinsic values are more likely to experience lasting satisfaction. So we're really building this theme here, this idea, what really is success? This does not mean money or achievement are inherently harmful. Financial stability reduces stress and opens opportunities. Professional accomplishment can be meaningful and motivating. However, problems arise when external markers become the primary measure of self-worth. This to me was the defining paragraph, because I like that it's balanced. It doesn't mean that money or achievement are inherently harmful, meaning that if we have money, if we achieve these things, if we get the nice watch, the nice car, it doesn't mean that they in and of themselves are harmful, that they're bad. We could never say that. Financial stability, it makes life easier, doesn't it? Opportunities open up. It takes a bit of pressure away from life. We do well in our career and our job. It gives us a bit of motivation to keep on going. But the problem lies when these things become the primary measure. Sorry, I said primary, but they're weird there. It's primary. Don't say primary. That's weird. Primary measure of self-worth. When external markers, when all of these things become the measure of success, that's where the issue is, not in themselves. When success is defined narrowly by income, status, or comparison, it often creates a cycle of constant evaluation. Social media intensifies this dynamic. Carefully curated highlights from others' lives can distort perception, creating the illusion that success is constant, dramatic, and visible. Psychologists have linked frequent upward comparison with increased feelings of inadequacy and decreased self-esteem. The more individuals measure themselves against idealized images, the more likely they are to feel that they are falling short. I feel like this is so true. So when success is defined narrowly, and when we do define it by wealth, status, income and comparison, it is a narrow road, isn't it? It is a narrow definition. Well, this creates a cycle, meaning that it's circular, it just keeps on going, of constant evaluation. Social media really intensifies this, magnifies it. Because you think about it, everything you do is carefully curated highlights from others' lives, meaning that carefully curated highlights, they post the good bits, the nice bits, perhaps the fake bits, the bits that aren't too real. And that can distort our perception. It can, taint the way that we view life, creating this illusion, this unreality that success is constant, it's dramatic, it's visible, it's what everyone can see. But it's not always real, is it? It's interesting here that psychologists have often linked frequent upward comparison, so this idea of constantly comparing yourselves to others, with increased feeling of inadequacy and decreased self-esteem. So even your self-worth is affected by this. And this can make you feel like you're falling short. If you're falling short, you're not hitting the mark. And I think this is true. But I do worry particularly, I don't know about you, about young ones with social media. That constant comparison to those posts of everyone with Lamborghinis, Bugattis, throwing money around. They could start to think, I'm falling short in life. I'm not hitting the mark. And then it goes on to say, another harmful consequence of a distorted success narrative is burnout. The World Health Organization has recognized burnout as an occupational phenomenon resulting from chronic workplace stress that has not been successfully managed. In cultures where success is equated with productivity and long working hours, overextension can become normalized. Rest may feel undeserved. Slowing down may feel like a failure. Over time, this mindset can erode mental and physical health. So this idea of that narrative of this distorted success, what can come from that? Burnout. If we burn out, we've got nothing else to give. We can't do it anymore. We're struggling. So the World Health Organization, or WHO, has recognized burnouts as an occupational phenomenon. Chronic, meaning it's just ongoing workplace stress that's not being managed. So there's many cultures where success is equated, or success is, how can we say, what is defined as success is productivity and long working hours. If you're productive, if you're working long hours, if you're overextending yourself, then don't worry, you're being successful. That's not healthy, is it? Because then you feel like when you slow down, you're no longer successful, you're a failure. And it can erode mental and physical health. It's such a dangerous mindset to be in. There is also evidence that tying identity too closely to achievement makes individuals more vulnerable to emotional instability. When self-worth depends heavily on performance, setbacks can feel catastrophic. A missed promotion, a failed project, or a financial loss may not simply be disappointing, they may threaten a person's sense of value. And this really shows the importance of going back to basics of what success really is, because this is not what it is. It's affecting self-worth because you think, I'm not successful because I missed the promotion, I missed the deadline, I didn't quite do as well as I wanted to, I'm no longer successful, so I no longer have any value. It's kind of like a toxic cycle to be in. In contrast, research consistently shows that long-term well-being is strongly associated with factors that are less visible. Supportive relationships, autonomy, a sense of purpose and alignment with personal values. These elements rarely generate headlines, but they are powerful predictors of life satisfaction. Extrinsic and intrinsic. Long-term well-being is associated with what really others can't see. It's the less visible stuff. It's interesting here that it says, this stuff rarely generates headlines. It doesn't sell on Instagram, does it? It doesn't sell on social media, the news, talking about things that are less visible. It's not what sells. So this suggests that success may be less about accumulation and more about alignment. A meaningful definition of success reflects how a person wishes to live, not merely what they wish to acquire. It involves coherence between values and actions. It allows ambition, but not at the expense of health or integrity. A meaningful definition of success reflects how a person wishes to live, not merely what they wish to acquire. There's nothing wrong with those nice things. There's nothing wrong with, if it's within our means, having a nice car, a nice watch, whatever. But success really is reflecting on how a person wishes to live, between our values and our actions. Ambition, doing well, but not at the expense of our health, at the expense of our self-worth, at the expense of our integrity, because then we're no longer successful, are we? If we're climbing up that career ladder, but our health is struggling and our integrity to our values has been questioned, then that's not successful, is it? A healthier model of success recognizes that achievements and fulfilment are not identical. Achievement is external and observable. Fulfilment is internal and experiential. I struggled with that word when I was practicing this. Internal and experiential. One can exist without the other. Ultimately, success cannot be universally prescribed. For some, it may involve building an organisation or advancing in a profession. For others, it may mean prioritising family, creative expression, or personal well-being. What matters is not how impressive a life appears from the outside, but how sustainable and meaningful it feels from within. Redefining success does not require abandoning goals. It requires questioning whether those goals genuinely reflect personal values or simply inherited expectations. When success is measured not only by what is achieved, but also by how life is experienced, it becomes less fragile and far more human. Success cannot be universally prescribed. What you view as successful, I might not, and vice versa. For some, it might be advancing in a profession. It might be getting material possessions. It might be having a family. But what it really is it's intrinsic, isn't it? Success is internal. It is not defined by what others see. Because we could have the mansion, we could have everything in the world. But if we've sacrificed our health, our self-esteem, our value, our integrity for that, perhaps that's really not successful at all. Success is measured not only by what's achieved, but by how life is experienced. So how could we sum all of this up? Well, from what I can see, from what I take from this, is the idea that success is really how we are feeling inside. Okay, there is success in an element of financial stability, wealth. There is success in that. But really, if we are content, if we're happy, if we feel good, if we're not sacrificing our health, then we're successful. Even if we haven't reached the point that others have, we haven't got the things they've got. That doesn't mean they're more successful in us. They've just attained different possessions. Interesting, isn't it, this idea of success? So are you successful? Am I successful? It's a personal question, isn't it? Really. But sometimes it's good to evaluate, go back to the basics of this idea of success. You know, it's not all about, well, it's not at all about what anyone else can see, because that means nothing, does it? But what about when it comes to language learning with your English? Are you successful when it comes to your English? We kind of have this habit as humans where we say no, we beat ourselves up. But are you successful in your English? Well, if you're listening to this podcast, if you're able to listen to this podcast, you've understood some of it, you've learnt some new words, then yes. And it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. Success in English is intrinsic. Okay. Somebody might be able to have a better, more coherent, longer conversation in English. They're not more successful than you. They're just at a different stage. Success does not come from comparisons, does it? I love that point. So perhaps sometimes it's just important to take a step back and realise, you know what, I am successful. I have done well with my English, and I just keep chipping away at it, and I'm okay with that because I feel good about it. That is where success comes from, isn't it? Contentment. It's so easy to compare ourselves to others, particularly on social media. I don't post too much on Instagram. I don't post at all on Instagram, reels and things like that now, because I've got quite, not strong views on it, but I do have my opinions on many ways that people teach English. And I think it can sometimes become almost like a political realm of, you shouldn't say this, you shouldn't say that. There's loads of people correcting each other on Instagram, like different teachers, calling out bad teachers and blah, blah, blah. That's not success to me. That is not success at all. And I think sometimes it can promote an incorrect idea of what is successful English in the way you should sound, the words you should use. You know, don't say this instead. I've fallen guilty to it in the past. I've posted stuff like that. But it can create this false narrative of what a successful learner of English is. It's not that at all. A successful learner of English is someone that is enjoying the process, that is happy where they currently are, and they keep on moving forward. There's no comparisons. There's no validation from anyone else. That is not what determines success. So I thought, it's just a nice idea to keep in mind. We're all at different levels when it comes to English. But it's up to us to say whether we are successful. And I'm going to say that you are. I am. We've done well. And perhaps sometimes we just need to, particularly with social media, just reevaluate our idea of what we believe the definition of success is. So before we conclude today, a podcast for you that I've recently got into. Very famous English comedian called James Acaster and Ed Gamble. It is called Off Menu. If you're looking for a podcast and you want to laugh, check that one out. They basically get different guests on. They had an amazing episode with Jeff Goldblum. And they basically just go through their perfect menu. And of course, they get to know them a little bit more and talk about different topics. Highly recommend it. So if you are looking for a British English podcast to listen to, Off Menu with James Acaster and Ed Gamble, brilliant option. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to give this episode a like. And if you got to this point in the podcast, please write success in the comments. And I'll see you all next week. Have a good one, guys.